Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rising Marriage Podcast. I'm Chris Rodak.
And I'm Sarah Rodak.
It's been a little bit since we had one. It's been about a month. Things have gotten busy. Kids back to school. Sarah back to school. Business growing. But we're back on track with a Q&A session.
Yeah, we're trying to get back to all of the questions you guys had for us. So we'll start with this one tonight. We had the question, how do you keep your intimacy spark alive when you've been married for a long time? So, Chris and I have been married for 13 years, and we actually have been together for 17, which is a long time, which I can't believe it's been that long, honestly. But we started dating really young, and, I think the big thing with intimacy is that you have to remember that intimacy is not fully physical. And I think a lot of times people think of intimacy as sex or something like specifically physical, but intimacy is emotional, just like it is physical. And if you don't keep the emotional relationship alive, then the physical doesn't usually follow. So I think the big thing here for us has been, we've been through so many different stages together, like college and first time with a job and newlyweds and new parents. And, there's been so many different phases of life we've been through together. And your physical intimacy isn't always number one during those phases or different seasons of your life. But that emotional intimacy really has to be in the forefront to keep your relationship spark alive.
Yeah, and there's like actual things you can do to keep a spark alive and to not fade off. Some of the things that we've been doing recently that I love is just taking walks at night.
Yes.
The kids are at an age where they can sit in the house by themselves. And we got these awesome walkie-talkies that have like a 35-mile range. And we go on a walk with the dog. They stay home. And we just walk around the neighborhood, just the two of us for 20 minutes or so. And just that little bit of time is really nice.
Yeah.
Just to connect and finally talk without kids screaming, fighting, and screwing with each other. And then also in the mornings, on like a few days a week, Sarah will, she doesn't have to work out early. So we'll get to have 2 or 3 days a week outside, just kind of hanging out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, drinking coffee and talking, even doing some work on our computers if we need to, but just being together without anyone else screwing with us.
Yeah. I think it's important too, because when I look back at all those different phases of life that we have been through together, we have always made sure that we made time for each other. And it doesn't always have to be like an elaborate date or anything like that, but just, those 20 minutes of sacred time where you just talk to each other and to keep that emotional intimacy alive. Or like you make sure that your spouse knows that you appreciate them and knows that you're kind of like the safe space. I think for me, intimacy too, physical and emotional, is I have to feel safe so that I can be vulnerable, which is a huge part of intimacy. And if you make your spouse feel safe, then it's just that intimacy can kind of have that spark a little bit more because you're more willing to be vulnerable with your spouse. And so just knowing that, like how you always tell me, I love you all the time. And I know so many people that their spouses don't say that very often. And that always is crazy to me. But that's something like we've always say, I love you. And even if we have a fight or an argument, like we could be really struggling with an argument or something. But if I say I love you, you will always say it back, or like vice versa. And that's really important to know. Like we might be going through a rough moment, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other anymore. And that really has this part of like intimacy there. This like we can go through anything and everything together and know that there's that trust still in our relationship and in like the life that we have built. And that really just keeps all of the emotional spark alive and the physical sparks as well.
So how does someone make a safe space for their spouse? What does that mean?
I mean, I can speak for myself, but a safe space for me is that I can know that I can be myself and have my own thoughts and opinions, and knowing that I can voice them and not worry about a ton of judgment. And that's for like the big stuff, right? But also just my safe space of knowing that I can always go to you if I need something, or if I'm struggling, or if I just need a hug, or if I just want to vent to you about something annoying that happened during the day, but it doesn't need to turn into a big thing. I just want to vent about it, or just tell you something really exciting or happy. And it's like, I know you'll listen. And I know that what I think and say and do and feel is valuable to you, and it matters. And I think that's like any relationship with anyone, that's important. But with your spouse, I think sometimes people lose that part of the spark, because it's like, oh, I already, we're married. We get each other. We won each other over. And then we can like dismiss things.
Yeah, it's easy to do that. It's easy. I think there's a lot of people who do that.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to take care of yourself. That's like a practical thing to do. If you just let yourself go, turn to a fat slob, then it's going to be hard to keep the spark alive.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of guys who say the same thing. They're like, I'm not the man my wife married. She's kept herself together, but I've let myself go. I'm more lazy. I'm undisciplined. I'm fat now. I drink now, and I'm not the guy that she married. And then that's not fair to her. It's not. Like, if I let myself just gain 100 pounds, I started drinking, started smoking, I wouldn't be saying, well, because I'm your husband, you have to be attracted to me. You have to, no, it's not the way it works. And a lot of, sometimes we resign to the fact that, yeah, we're married and it's just a fact. So we're married and it's just kind of boring and it's just a fact of life, and you don't care enough to improve things. I talk to some people who are like that, and it's just very blah. You have to actually work at it, to actually try to make things exciting and try to do things, because years can go by, you can decline, you're not going on dates, and everything can change. So just like everything else, you have to be intentional about it. You have to say, today I'm going to make sure I do these things. I'm going to tell her I love her. I'm going to do something spontaneous for her. I'm going to actually work at it, just like you work at your health or work at anything. And for the first point I was saying, you got to keep yourself in good shape. Some people say, well, my wife loves me no matter what. Yeah, I know. We know. But it doesn't mean she's attracted to you. It honestly doesn't. Maybe she was at one point. But when a decade goes by and you're twice the man you were in weight-wise, then she might not be attracted to you. Don't you want to be someone who they are attracted to, someone they want to be with, someone that they like to show off. It's a nice thing to happen. So to keep the spark alive, you've got to do some personal work. You've got to work on yourself.
I think too, to go with that, is that, there'll be someone listening to this that's like, disagree. Like, hey, I know my wife will love me no matter what, and it doesn't matter what I look like, or vice versa, right? Like, I see it on the other opposite end of the spectrum as well with the women. However, I think whenever you're really working on yourself, you have like a different confidence and persona that you give off. And, we've been through lots of different phases together. And I think whenever you're working out, or even myself, and we are working really hard, you are just more confident in who you are, and the intimacy comes more alive because you feel good about yourself, and you're feeling good. So you're showing that off to your spouse, and that definitely keeps the spark alive for sure. And I mean, being in shape and working out and having self-growth just brings everything together for your whole marriage. It's not just about physical looks. It's about the confidence that you gain from it.
Yeah, you don't have to wait until you have a six-pack to be confident and have sex. You could also just, like Sarah said, have the confidence that comes from, and the self-love and just the confidence and strength that comes from knowing that you're pushing yourself every day, knowing that you're on the journey, you're getting stronger. Because it happens. You get more powerful, you get stronger, you get more confident whenever you're pushing yourself and working on yourself. So yeah, if you're 100 pounds overweight, don't wait 2 years until you're ripped. Just start working on yourself now, and it starts to happen.
Yeah.
So take care of yourself. Nothing is like more unattractive than someone who's just accepting their lot in life and not going after things. At least to me. Just like go push yourself, try to become something more. That's number one. And then also you just make time. Like make time for the other person. We're talking about in the mornings we're making time. In the evenings we're making time. Our kids right now are out at their friend's house having like a play date. So we said, all right, we got to do a podcast. Then after this, we're going to watch a movie. Might have a little cheese plate, maybe some grapes.
Oh, yeah, definitely grapes with that cheese.
Watch a 90s movie. Have some just chill time together. We'll see what happens. And then we got to pick the kids up in a couple hours. But we got time together. That's one thing. And if you've got babies at home, you got puppy dogs. Our dog's right next to us. But if you've got like craziness at home and it's chaotic, I get it. We've been there. It's insane. But still make the effort. Still make the effort to get a babysitter. Call your grandparents. Call your relatives. Call your friends. Call people who want to watch your kids. Or pay someone to watch your kids. To give yourself time together.
Even if it's like, I think this is so important too. Like there was a time when our kids were little, we didn't have 2 dimes to rub together and we couldn't like pay a babysitter, but we still made time together even at home. Like there were times where the house was destroyed from, our kids are very close in age, and you just had to like let it be that and decide that we were just going to like let the house be in disarray. And after they went to bed, just spend 30 minutes or an hour together and just talk, connect, even watch a show together, snuggle on the couch. Like sometimes there's always a way you can be together without it being elaborate, and just giving that time during the day and like knowing you're on each other's team is so important.
Yeah. So take care of yourself, give yourself time, be intentional throughout the day. And then what else can people do to keep the spark alive after they have kids? Because the extra sentence here is after you have kids. So that means you're saying that whenever you have kids, it's a lot harder. Yeah, it is. But also just the pure fact of spending a lot of time with someone and just living with someone, whether you have kids or not, also has the potential to take the spark away. Because I know people who don't have kids, who've been with each other for a long time, who also don't have a spark.
That's true.
Because they're not working at it. They don't want it. They're not being intentional about it. So you got to work on the relationship. You've got to go on more dates.
Got to woo your girl.
Got to woo your girl.
And make sure they know that you care about them, you appreciate them, they're pretty. Even just like a little smack on the butt. You know, sometimes our kids will make fun of that Chris just, he doesn't do it in purpose in front of them, but like it happened. But our kids know that we love each other and that Dad thinks you're so pretty, Mom. Like I'll hear things like that. And it's because you tell me and I tell you, hey, you're looking good, and it could be like a 5-second thing, but it makes us know like, hey, you still got it. Make sure they know you appreciate them and talk to them about the stuff you love about them. Woo them over.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It just takes some intentionality and time. And it can be hard when you get home from work and you're tired and maybe you don't have a lot of energy to think about doing that. But remember, your kids will be gone someday. It'll just be you and your wife. Yeah. It'll be you and your spouse. So don't wait until that happens to start working on your relationship, because then you're going to be very different people. Mm-hmm. You're going to be in your late 40s or 50s, past your prime, and you could have just worked a little harder, put a little more time in, and had an amazing relationship whenever you were in your prime. Mm-hmm. So think about that way. Kind of look back on your life. When your kids leave, and it's just the two of you, however much time you have left, do you want that to be your spontaneous, crazy, passionate time, or right now whenever you guys are actually in your prime?
But you also have to think of it, too, that it's so important to show your children what a healthy relationship looks like. So, like, if you're waiting to hit your prime for, okay, our kids are going to leave and then we can, like love on each other all the time. Like you should be doing that appropriately anyways while your kids are there, so they know like what example are you setting for your son, your daughter, whenever you like don't show any type of emotion towards your spouse in front of them. They're going to think that's what they deserve whenever they grow up. Do you know what I mean? So I think like just investing in each other and letting your kids see that's like a huge part of investing in their future as well.
Mm-hmm. What else is there? We got some stuff.
More intimacy stuff.
We do a good job.
Oh yeah, we do. We kick butt. There's a funny story that made me think of this. So I've told you this, but one thing that I'll notice is some couples get like so weirded out and almost like just this intense jealousy with someone like will say that like if Chris gets hit on or something, like there's so many girls that would be like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened, get like mad. I mean, I like it because I know like, yeah, that's right. He's my man and he's hot. You know what I mean? Like seriously. But I have to tell this funny story because it cracks me straight up. I got hit on the other day. And of course I told Chris that it had happened, but not because I was like, I got hit on. It's because I am mortified at my response because I am so head over heels for Chris that I am like almost oblivious when things like that happen to me because I just wouldn't even ever do that. Do you know what I mean? So I went to the eye doctor and this is like so embarrassing, but it's so funny. I have to tell it. And I have like really bad eyesight. I wear contacts. So I go and do my eye exam. You know how there's like the person that sits at the desk that fits you for your glasses and contacts. And it's this guy that's probably my age, maybe like a year or two older. And he's acting like we know each other. And I swear he looks kind of familiar, but like it's not ringing a bell. He's super nice guy. And then he starts like saying stuff. And then he's like, I can't believe it's been a year since your last eye exam. And I was like, oh, it's probably because he's like looking at the computer screen and I was here a year ago. Like, that's pretty normal. And I was like, yeah, it's gone fast. And then he said like another thing. And I was like, do we know each other? I can't. And he's like, so I'm like looking at him and he's like, oh yeah, remember? And starts laughing how funny it was that like, last time you were here, like you took your contacts out and you couldn't see to walk back to the exam room and I had to walk you back there. And I was like, oh, I do vaguely remember that. I was like, that's really odd that you remember that. You see so many people in a year, And he was like, goes in for like the hitting on you. And he was like, well, if someone like with eyes like that, how could you ever forget them? Oh. And then he was like paused, right? But like usually you go, thanks. And that's that. But my weird, awkward self pauses and I got flushed and panicked. And my response was, my husband has 20/20 vision.
It's even embarrassing for me.
I came home and told him that. And he's like, did you seriously say that? And then I was just like, as soon as I said it, I like didn't know how to recover. So I was like, which is great because contacts are expensive. And then I was just like, and I'm digging my hole even deeper. So moral of the story is, I just thought that was such a funny story and still crack up at it. Try to be smoother than me. But I mean, I definitely ended that right there. So that was good. But it is nice whenever, you're working on yourself and like we'll say that kind of stuff to each other because it's like, hey, like I still got it, but obviously my smooth talking game is gone.
That's okay. Shame on that man.
Oh my God. But anyways, that's my funny story.
Well, you can't go back to the eye doctor again.
I have to go pick up my contacts.
Sorry. No, it's fine.
I'll have you going.
He probably will avoid you now.
I'm sure I made him feel so. I bet he told this story to everybody.
All right. So keeping the spark alive after you have kids can be done.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to want it. Your partner needs to want it. You have to take care of yourself. You have to make time. You have to be intentional about it. And you have to work at it.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No, just remember that when you're with your spouse for a really long time, you're going to grow together and you're going to have times that are hard and times that are amazing. And when it's the times that are amazing, your intimacy is going to be in check. And when there's times that it's hard, you have to be a little bit patient and work a little bit harder to keep that intimacy going.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Glad to be back on the podcast train. We're going to try to get one out once a week.
Yes.
That's the goal. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.